Hey friends, this is Reem here with you from Vipassana. If you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. And if you're returning, thanks so much for watching. I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit about this red pill going on in society. So I was doing a little bit of research myself. I do group coaching for women to help them understand themselves better as well as understanding men. And in the process of creating my curriculum, I was really examining the reality that there are not a lot of people on women's side right now. Now, before you begin criticizing me, listen to what I mean exactly. I'm not so much talking about feminism. I think actually feminism has been the demise of not only female relationships and understanding themselves and other females, but also of the female-male dynamic. And that is essentially why there is a lack of union across the board. And we see that very clearly when we're observing how high divorce rates are, how early people are divorcing, and the type of communication that they have in their relationships on a day-to-day and a practical level. So I'm here to advocate another route. Rather than just red pilling, rather than just demoralizing men and man bashing and, all of the other terminology that we could tend to, I'm here to propose that there's another route that we didn't consider, and that's bringing the union back, okay? So I want to start today by reading to you what the Red Pill community is dedicated to. So it says that the Red Pill community is dedicated to helping men achieve their goals of dating and understanding women. To this end, they say there is little value in asking women advice because of their high rate of cognitive dissonance. In the female mind, the Red Pill community states that female psychology is driven primarily by emotions, and a woman's perspective can change frequently based purely on how she feels at that moment. They say that a woman would also be too embarrassed to honestly explain why she finds attractive in a man out of fear that she will be socially shamed or stigmatized. According to the Red Pill community, this is why women rarely admit their attraction to alpha male jerk guys that act in a cocky, dominant, or even sexist manner, and instead pretend to be attracted to nice guys. I just have to say that this little piece of text touches on so many things. And so the first thing it talks about is how you shouldn't really trust women. You shouldn't really ask women what it is that they want because they actually don't know what they want. That's what this text is saying. And I have to say, I really agree. When I accurately analyze myself and my tendencies and my habits, and I would say this about most people, not just in specific to women, but for the sake of this conversation, let's focus on women. Women don't really know what they want. They have actually no idea. Usually, if you ask your partner, your female partner, hey, where do you want to go eat? She'll say, and maybe 15 minutes later, you've come up with a few different options and they still can't decide because making the decision is really hard. But in all fairness, women weren't designed to make decisions. If we look at this in an evolutionary perspective and historically, women usually stayed at home and took care of the babies, of all the children. They didn't have to make decisions about what was going on in the outside world because they were tending to the inner world. And this here elevates the different dynamic of the male and female. And when we think about that, feminine essence is to nurture and to care and to tend for, while the male is to provide, preside, and protect. One of them is designed to make decisions, to make fast thinking decisions that are going to execute a plan and make sure that the task gets done. Whereas the alternative is more about creating that different type of culture, maybe even a communist culture, if you will. And I've heard that before, where women are more of a maternal sense, creating that communism establishment within the home where all the children have equal say, equal expression, and to unify them together through that. Whereas a father doesn't really address his children through a communist perspective. Rather than the father is going to speak to the children, and he's not going to tell the older son to shine less or do less so that way he makes his little brother feel good. No, on the contrary, he's going to tell them to excel where they're good, where they feel comfortable, and that mirrors a capitalistic society. So these are just some of the few differences that we see when we look at the masculine and the feminine and how they differentiate. When we take that into a relationship, we can begin to understand why it's a little bit challenging for the mom to, make decisions, or for a female, if you will. Because the truth of it is, within every woman, there is an essence of a maiden, there's an essence of a mother, and an essence of a crone. Whether or not she became a mother, she has those tendencies. She has that nurturing, innate ability within her, because that is how she's biologically and physiologically wired. So it went on to talk about cognitive dissonance. Yes, on this note, I do agree. Not just women, but many individuals experience. But for the sake of these conversations, guys, I'm going to be speaking specifically to women, because what I've noticed as I've been browsing the market and seeing what content is out there, there's not a lot of women taking full responsibility for our lack. We're always so worried about filling the hole and filling the gap. And, I guess coming from a place of where there's shame, we might feel like we're not good enough or not enough or will never be enough. But here's the thing, if we can get really honest about where we are in our process, then we can say, okay, I'm actually here, instead of pretending that I'm here, and then I can get to where I want to be at a better rate, because I'm being very honest and very vulnerable about where my starting point is. So yes, there have been times in my life where what I say and what I do not align. And so what I recommend to a lot of my female clients is to not listen to what you say, but watch your actions. And if you take an inventory over time, whether it's a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and begin to notice, do your words match your actions? Do your actions match your words? If they don't, why not? What is stopping that from happening? What prevents the melding, the congruency? What creates these inconsistencies? And start paying attention to those things. And if you're looking for more personalized coaching, you can always sign up with me at vipassamama@gmail.com, or visit my website, www.vipassamama.com. You can also find me on Instagram and here on YouTube and other things as well. So continues on to say that women have the cognitive dissonance by basically taking claim that they do like alpha males and why they like alpha males. So society, in many respects, has a problem shaming not only women, but all individuals, to the point that if you don't go along with what the mainstream thinking is, that you will be shamed. But here's the catch. Someone who is fully aware of themselves and can embody, or let's say if you don't like that word, who really understands what their thoughts are, what their actions are, what their morals are, and how they implement that, how they integrate that, cannot be shamed. Okay? Shame only occurs when we have not tapped into the parts of ourselves that are not integrated, what some may call the shadow. And when that is not integrated into our life, meaning we're not aware of it, we've never addressed it, we've never done like personal work and development on it, then that's when, if someone pushes your trigger button, you can get triggered. So if I've done my due diligence of myself, and I've studied myself, I've understood myself, I've looked at my old hurts, my old pains, my old traumas, if you will, and I've done a lot of healing work around them. And that just means bringing them into the open and processing them in a way that is healthy. And so I'm not recreating situations from my past, recreating these circumstances to kind of redeem a situation that cannot be redeemed. Instead, this allows me to, by processing them and talking about them, whether it's through talk therapy or through journaling or through some sort of tapping or neurological rewiring, That allows me to integrate them into my life so they're not hidden in the dark corners, so then I can work with that energy. Okay? Now, if we don't do this work, we basically leave a bunch of buttons all over ourselves. So it might be through guilt, it might be through shame, it might be through worry and anxiety, it might be through self-acceptance, it could be through jealousy or envy, it could be feeling like you're crazy, it could be feeling like you have no connection to yourself or to God or the earth at all. Wherever your blocks are, when we don't do the work on ourselves, when we don't go through this almost like a checklist, what can happen is that when someone says or does something that can push on this trigger button, it's like walking around with a big red button of shame. Okay, so if I have shame in me, can I be triggered through shame? Because if I've done the work on myself, then someone can come and try to push buttons, but there are no existing buttons, right? But if I do have that shame or that guilt or that anxiety, anything that happens from the external world that pokes at that will literally trigger that emotion within me. So you can't really shame the shameless. If you're shameless, and that means you've done your work and you've understood yourself and you've brought yourself from here to at least here, can't be shamed. But in this situation, we're talking about not being able to admit what we actually like for fear of being shamed. So a really good tip that I can offer you is that if you're a female and you're watching this video, get really clear about what it is that you want. And by that, I mean, write down what you think you want. Once you've written it down and you can see it tangibly on a piece of paper, ask yourself, is this really what I want? And I know you have an amazing imagination, so humor me and ask yourself, what would your life look like if you actually had this thing that you want? Begin by doing it with 3 simple tasks. How differently would your life look? What would be different about it? How would that make you feel? And once you've been able to answer that, ask yourself again, is this really what I want? Or am I in love with the idea of something rather than the actualization of it? These are really important practices to put into our daily life. And the truth of the matter is, I myself, I've been attracted to alpha males, and rightfully so. I want a man who's going to be able to protect, provide, and preside for me. Why wouldn't I want that? It's a very scary world out there. In case you haven't paid attention to what's going on outside of your window, but this is not the type of place that you'd like to be running around on your own or raising a child on your own. Eventually, whether or not you want to admit it right now, you want to be in a loving and compassionate relationship and build that partnership and have that intimacy with somebody. That's part of the human existence. That's part of the human life. So to admit that we want a partner that's going to protect us, to admit that we want a partner that's going to preside, that's basically making sure that the household is stable, making sure that everything is safe, and to preside and to bring forth their skills and their talents to just elevate the relationship. So often we get into the trap of thinking, well, no, I want to do it for myself, by myself. And women get on like a high horse, and trust me, I have been there. I'm not preaching to you from a place of knowing. I'm telling you as a sister of saying, hey, you know what? I've been where you are, and I realized that that did not get me the results that I wanted. And that's the truth about this whole feminist movement, is that we've gone from being convinced or having the seed planted that the patriarchy has taken from us and that the patriarchy is our oppressor. And I'll talk about this in another video, but the reality is patriarchy is not our oppressor. Biology is what oppresses women. Our physiology is what oppresses women. And when we really examine the depths of those statements and recognize that, we'll realize that this was literally just a seed of propaganda or public relations that was implanted into our mind. And through this seed, we have now taken it and spiraled it out of control because our thoughts run rampant in our life. We have no self-control. We have no ability to recognize when a worry or an anxiety has come in and hijacked our physical body through our mental thoughts. And through this hijacking, now we no longer are really diligent in our thoughts and filtering everything that's coming through. So through this snowball effect, we've basically blamed and pinned patriarchy as the evil here, when patriarchy has done quite a bit for us in society. Patriarchy has helped us build the roads. Patriarchy has helped us build the plumbing and the sewage system. It's helped us taking out the trash on a weekly basis, so that way we're not living in a pile of shit. Patriarchy has built the infrastructure that exists today that allows women to come and have an equal, if not better, seat at the table. And that's the truth. And the sooner that we bring this into reality and actualize this as verbiage, the sooner we can engage in healthy dialogue that helps to bring back the union and recognize that there is a need for the male and there's a need for the female. And to bring that union together is where we can tap into just different levels of achievement, and not just achievement, but of that love and of that compassion and of that unity together, which is the whole essence of life. We didn't come here to just pump and dump and to just come for pleasure. We came here to build something together. And if we don't, then we'll leave and the earth will continue on without us. But truthfully, we used to be a kind of people who contributed a lot, not only to society, but to the earth, to always give back, to always give to each other, to put others before ourselves. This whole movement of self-love is pretty selfish, if you ask me. It's the first level of understanding. Yes, you have to love yourself before you get into a relationship, but the next level is loving the other as yourself. And this is the component that we're all forgetting, that we're all neglecting and not sharing here. So this is me just taking the time to say, ask yourself, are you willing to admit the kind of person that you really want to be with, the kind of man, as a female, the kind of man that you want as your partner? What are the non-negotiables? And instead of looking for the disqualifiers, why don't you look for the qualifiers? Because what we think in our minds is what we see in life. So if you're constantly focusing on what they don't have, you're always going to disqualify them. There's never going to be someone good enough for you. And then you're going to end up alone and sad and miserable with a bunch of cats, wondering why, or blaming patriarchy for your life being this way, remaining as the victim forever, instead of standing up and saying, hey, you know what? I am guilty of some of these things. And I don't want to be following into this category of what a lot of feminists are claiming themselves as, because a feminist does not man bash. That's swinging from one end of the pendulum of misogyny to feminism. But that's not the intention of feminism. It wasn't. It's unfortunate that's what it's developed into, but we really need to assess what was the intention? What would a pure intention be? What is the middle path? And it's creating that union of the two, creating the union of the divine masculine, of the divine feminine, and uniting that together and watching as the magic happens, because that's really what this is about. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Please leave me some questions, some comments. I would love to engage with you further. I'm going to be doing a Q&A coming up very soon. So if you have any questions, again, you can email them to me at vipassamama@gmail.com. I'll leave that here below in the comments. Visit my website, www.vipassamama.com. You can check me out on Instagram. And the best way to support me is to like my stuff, to follow, to subscribe, and to share my content with other people. And please feel free to give me some suggestions, some ideas. If you disagree, I welcome disagreement. I'm not here to claim that I know everything, but I'm here to shift the perspective, to give you an alternative way of thinking about this, and to say, hey guys, I see you, I hear you, Red Pill community, you are not going unheard. And I'm here to make sure that these women get this message delivered in a way that's not only constructive, but helpful and tangible in their life. Because here's the thing, you can complain about us just as we've complained about you, but if you don't give us a step-by-step or give us an opportunity to engage with you on this step-by-step of how we can remediate at this time, you're going to be unhappy too. You know, no one likes to sit and sulk in their home by themselves and just complain about the other. Like, let's figure out a way to make this work. Why not? Right? I know a lot of women who are just as much dying to be in relationships as some of you men out there. So I really am just opening the conversation and trying to create something different, create some union in the world, because now more than ever, we definitely need it. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.